Man, who is that creeper on the camo boat? Teams here are blue against 12 and 15. So blue is, they probably have the 2 and the 4 here. The boat kind of breaks off into pairs. This happens a lot in team racing. They kind of break off into pairs. And we pretty quickly see what happens here. And, 16 maybe there could have forced 15 into another tack. But in team racing, especially as it kind of unfolds, little mistakes can kind of go a long way, right? So we're chasing with 16. They're not controlling anything. And 18 is fairly in a pin here with the boat 15 here. And when you have to think about a lot in team racing is the next interaction, who's going to have the starboard advantage here, right? So 18 kind of tacking off onto starboard. In fleet racing is normally maybe a good move, or if the breeze is kind of trending left. But the next interaction between 18 and 15 is going to have the advantage here. So sometimes you have to kind of hold the pin or kind of not have awesome position on an opponent, but the longer he's able to kind of hold that, the longer 16 is able to get back into the race here. And we kind of split a little bit with 18 here. And all that really does is it allows 12 to gain control of 18, and now 18 is no longer really going to be in that much of a position to help boat 15 here. So not a big mistake, but enough of a mistake where now 12 and 15 are controlling both of these pairs as we kind of move up the race course. And what's here on these runs, especially in these box courses, is the way they're set, the runs are not really true runs. They're kind of more reaching, and the lead boats have an advantage here, and we saw this, hopefully this downwind will kind of show this a little bit, but the big thing in team racing on the runs is it's the great equalizer, right? It allows the boats behind to kind of use their wind shadows to try to cover the boats that are ahead. And if you're the lead boat in that scenario and you're chasing both 12 and 15, 18 needed to jibe maybe sooner so they can get on the apparent wind of one of the boats. And the boat that seems the most vulnerable here is boat 12. So in boat 18 and boat 16, the whole time you're trying to get on to boat 12's apparent wind. So maybe you're sailing a little bit higher. When they go wing, you're going wing, and you're just trying to really slow them down. We can kind of see how the gap gets narrow here, and boat 12's teammate 15 is really not totally right now in a position to support boat 12 if they kind of get into trouble. The two trailing boats are inside. They're positioned okay, starboard advantage here. But as soon as boat 12 goes to wing, and bad camera work here, you got to go to wing. You got to stay on their breeze so that you kind of can help reel them in, And by being on their breeze, I essentially mean being on their apparent win the entire time, you know. And there were a couple times where 18 might have been able to kind of suck down on their breeze a little bit, or even try to force the game to the inside. And you know, just small missed opportunities, and we're not going to be able to kind of round in any sort of. We're still in the chase mode for the Blue Boats. And then we kind of go upwind, and one of the skills we'll be spending a lot of time, maybe next week, working on is when you're trailing, kind of getting the boat in front of you out of sequence, right? So we know that the first place boat should be covering this third place boat here, but basically what you want to do is as you tack, basically 18 is going to tack there, and then they need to basically tack immediately back. And then 16 can tack away, and you can kind of really shuffle the pairs back and forth. If you get the lead boats, the leaders are trying to kind of control their pairs to the edges of the race course. That basically eliminates all of the options, tactical options for the boats that are coming from behind to come back. And the boats that are behind are really trying to force the game a lot more into the middle, you know, and really try to get the lead teammates kind of ducking one another or communicating their coverage, and that allows you to kind of get right back into the game here. 18 is kind of sailing a little bit more for leverage, and as soon as they get some leverage here, they need to tack back onto boat 12 immediately. And what you're trying to do is in team racing, you're really trying to get to the right of your opponent, because if you get to the right of your opponent, you're going to be able to control the starboard advantage. And if you never get to the right of your opponent, you are never going to really be in a good position to make a pass. And they kind of close the gap. The Blue Boats close the gap a little bit here, but it's just not enough to get around one of the teammates. And you can tell that the blue guys are kind of operating independently, and that's really making it somewhat easy for 12 and 15 to kind of keep them behind.